If you remember 2008, Steve Jobs already knew he was going to die. He knew he had 1 or 2 years to die. And he said, I have energy and time for one more project in Apple. What's that project? And he said, I need a project that will ensure every other project. And that project was Apple University. So he built a university for him to be able to teach and take all his culture and learnings and everything that will stay in Apple. So he built Apple University 2008. And it was the whole idea about understanding Apple's culture, philosophy, innovation, courage, everything that Apple had to be able to pass that through the generations, through the groups, and be able to scale. And for me, they did a lot of things, product innovation, all that. The biggest success or determination that it worked. When Steve Jobs died, they were doing 37 billion in revenue. In 2021, 2 years ago, they did 365 billion. They more than 10 times. And by the way, the company was worth 300 billion. Today is worth 3 trillion. They 10 times the valuation. Even when Steve Jobs, a very charismatic, center-driven entrepreneur, everything was around him, his company, after he dies, 10x revenue and 10x valuation, because he left the DNA of the way he ran the company, he left it in the Apple University. And that's what maintained the company and has grown the company significantly. So he had enough capable leaders, but made sure those leaders were able to run with the same culture, innovation, mindset, determination that he had to be able to scale Apple into the size that it is today. So what do you usually need to have in a company university? Training, content, right? You need to have content. You need to have toolkits. The training that you have to be able to implement with certain tools in your business, in your department, in your area. You have to learn accountability with other coaches. We know it's very difficult to learn without a faculty, a professor, or a coach that is guiding you how to do it. A track learning, hey, you have to do this step, then this step, and then this step. Whenever you get to one of these places that give you a lot of courses, people don't know what course they have to take. You have to give them a track and say, hey, in your department or your area, or for you in your development, this is the first class, then this second class, this is the third class, and give them a track of learning of what they have to do. Of course, customized learning pathways and gamification make it fun, make it engaging for people to do that. And that's what like a company university or building a company university needs to have minimum. And by the way, when you have a company university and you have a learning and development plan in your company, you get, first of all, culture of learning, right? You build a culture of learning. And by the way, Satya Nadella in Microsoft, and by the way, Microsoft is the most valuable company today. He changed one thing psychologically in the company when Satya Nadella took the helm, and he said, we're going to go from a know-it-all culture to a learn-it-all culture. And he built a culture of learning. He used to deal with Microsoft in the past. You sat down on a table to negotiate, and Microsoft said, no, we're Microsoft. We're going to tell you how things are. And they were know-it-all. It was really uncomfortable to be with them. They want to do things just their own way. They were not open to learn. And if you don't like it, that was your problem. And what happened with the company? They lost a lot of value. Interestingly, when Microsoft 2000, it was worth around $50 a stock when Steve Ballmer got the CEO helm. In 2014, 14 years later, the stock was worth $36. It lost 30% of its value in 14 years. And then Satya Nadella gets it 2014, and today it's worth more than 10 times more what it was worth. Same as Apple, they 10x the revenue because they changed their mindset. And their mindset was, we're going from a know-it-all culture to a learn-it-all culture. You get a lot more loyalty of your team. You get a common language. Now we talk with the same words. Said, hey, we have to have the BHAG, and what's your rock, and what's your success criteria? And we use the same wording, and that helps us to execute much more efficient. Personal growth for your team. If they're growing, they're going to grow your company. You're going to have them engaged. They're going to be seeing the future. They really understand where you want to go and what they have to learn. You will remain competitive. You will empower your team. Like, there's so many great things that happen when you build a culture of learning and a learning platform or a learning process in your company to be able to grow your team. All of this happen. It really helps you with retention, take your team to the next level. And most importantly, you're building your future leadership. Of course, leadership retires, leaves, or whatever. You have to have that group of leaders. They're always growing to become leaders. And you always have enough capable leaders to replace whoever is leaving the company. And of course, that's going to build a very, very strong employer brand. reputation, value, retention, recruitment, attraction. It will build an amazing, amazing employer brand, and you're going to be able to hire better people and retain better people. And as we know, the salaries, just as financial salaries, usually number 4, number 5 things of why people stay in the company. There's 3 or 4 more in front that is all about their development, their growth, their respect, and all that. If someone stops growing in a company and doesn't feel value, they're going to leave. If you're investing in them, they feel value, they're doing something they like, they enjoy, and they see the impact it's having in the company, most likely they will stay. So what is the elements of building a learning organization? First, create a learning and development strategy. You need to have a strategy of learning and development. You need to implement company-wide and say, guys, we're introducing as a priority or an initiative or something big in your company, a learning and development strategy. Then enable a culture and a time of continuous learning. We see a lot of companies, they bring all this learning and development, but then they don't give the time to their team or their attention or the importance, and no one uses all the tools that they buy. And by the way, not every team member wants to go through the learning and should go through the learning. They have to apply, and I'll tell you a little bit that story in the next couple of slides. But we've learned from the best companies that if you give access to everyone in your organization, they're not going to do it. You have to get them to apply, and some of them are going to go through the program, not all of them. And this is something very, very important for them to go through it. And then a peer body system is very, very important, that you group them in 2 or 3 or 5 people together, and they help each other and they go together through the learning. And by the way, we always get this question, Daniel, how much should I invest in learning and development? 2 to 3% of your total labor cost. Everything you're paying for salaries, get 2 to 3% of that, and that's what you should invest in learning and development. It should not be more than that. It's a very, very reasonable cost to be able to have all of these. Imagine having all of these by just investing 2 or 3% of your payroll. It's incredible, the return on investment. So how do you transform this learning into results? This is kind of the magic that we've been learning in the last years. Great, you could have a lot of learning. How can you drive results into your business? And this is the way we've been learning how to do it. First, you have to build a 3-year plan for the company. The strategy for the company next 3 to 5 years. I want you to tell me exactly how your company needs to look in the next 3 to 5 years. We're going to do 50 million in revenue. We're going to operate in these markets. We're going to have these products, these services. I want you to give me a description how your company needs to look in the next 3 to 5 years. Then write a functional org chart of the company there, not today. It's very difficult to do a functional org chart today because you said, well, that position, that's John, or that's Laura, or this is whatever. No, I'm not talking about the person. I'm talking about the position. So understand the company 3 to 5 years from now, and then say, okay, this company, tell me the functional org chart that the company needs. And you're going to say, okay, it's going to need a CEO. It's going to need a head of operations. It's going to need a head of sales, a head of customer success, or whatever. And then you build your org chart. And then for every position, you have to write a job scorecard. And the job scorecard has a purpose of the position. It has the key deliverables or responsibilities, and then the KPIs you're going to ask that position. And then, now that you have that, then you could meet individually with each team member and say, guys, the company is going to go there. This is the team that we need in the next 3 to 5 years. Do you want a position there? Yes, I want that position. Great. This is the learning and development you need to go through. If you just push learning and development to your team, they're not going to like it. They said, well, I don't have time. You're just distracting me about, like, I cannot do it. But if you say, hey, that's where the company is going, that's the team that we're going to need in the next 3 to 5 years. Do you want to be part of the team? Do you want any of those positions? Yes, I want that position. Great. This is what the position is responsible for. These are the KPIs, and this is the learning you have to do to go from where you are today to there. And that's when you connect the learning to the strategy, and that's when people are dying and willing to go through learning. And then you could develop personal development plans that they have their plan to be able to, or have their learning gaps and be able to shorten that or learn what they have to learn. If you follow these steps, when you do that, then people are excited about learning. They really want to say, hey, I want that. I'm willing to dedicate 2 hours a month, or a week or a month, to be able to learn and be able to learn what I need to learn to be there. And of course, It's not just learning, it's not just a class. You need to have coaching, you need to have learning, you need to have experiences. You need to implement a lot of the learning as part of the learning, not just for them to be able to learn it right, for them to be able to test what they learn. And most importantly, if you improvements, if they learn something and bring it to the company and implement in their company, then you're just getting learning. You're getting an improvement in your company. And of course, that's going to bring more value to the company. And for mid-level businesses, so what do you have to do? How do you have to empower your team and keep them aligned, right? Provide specific goals. Now you know where you want to go. Encourage creativity and innovation. Hey, we need to go there. Do you want that? What do you need to do? We're going to invent. How are you going to get to there? Recognize and reward achievements. Hey, this person is going to that learning. It's becoming a much better leader, has learned all of this. Recognize and reward their achievements and learning, and provide opportunities for growth. If you go through this program, you're going to be a leader or a manager in this company. If you don't go through this program, you will never be. And by the way, this is something I've used a lot and I've recommended a lot of the companies that have gone through growth. When someone comes and says, hey, I want to be a manager, I want to be a leader, I want to be in that position, I say, great. This is what that position needs to learn. Go and learn this, and then I'll give you the position. How many people will follow that learning path to be in that position? Very few. I'll give you a quick story that happened to me some years ago. One day, we're looking for a sales manager, like 8 years ago. And a lady in my team, she was a sales agent, came to me and said, Daniel, I want to be a sales manager. And I was like, great, we really need a sales manager. Hey, let's talk about the sales manager position. What are the 3 most important things a sales manager needs to do? He was quiet, had no idea. And I was like, okay, so tell me the last 3 books or last 3 courses you've taken how to be a sales manager. Quiet. And I was like, okay, if you want to be a sales manager, I ask that you at least understand what is to be a sales manager. So please go and read a couple of books, go and take a couple of courses, and then come back and I'll give you a position. She resigned 3 months later. That's exactly what the right people will do. And like in everything, it's going to float. A lot of things are going to float and they're going to look very, very nice. And some team members are going to shine in your organization. And some team members, they're not going to go that well. Indeed, I'll tell you a quick or a little bit longer story, but I think it's really important. The other day, a company came through Growth Institute, through our MBD program, and they had 8 team members, 8 leaders in the company. And they wanted to double in the next 3 years. So the CEO of the company said, Daniel, I need to get all my management team that go through the MBD. I said, great. Let me send them an application. We talk about application, the body system, everything. Let's do the process. And I called him and said, hey, I have a short application of around 2 hours. I have a longer application around 4 hours. And he was like, Daniel, I'm doing 50 million today. I want to do 100 million revenue. They could not fill an application of 4 hours. They should not be on my leadership. I was like, okay, I'll send them that. So we sent them an application that should take them around 4 hours. And we gave them a 2 weeks window to fill out the application. The day the application was supposed to be submitted, we had 4 applications. The other 4 even didn't apply. So imagine you have 80 members, you invite them to do a year learning program and whatever for them to become the best leaders they can to be able to double the company. And 4 of them even applied to the program. The 4 that apply, I got their applications and we reviewed them and went through the process internally. So I called the CEO and said, hey, I need an hour with you to give you the results of the application process. So we sat down on the phone call and said, hey, about the 8 people you sent, 4 didn't apply. Didn't even send an email saying, hey, I'm too busy, I don't have the time, nothing. They just didn't apply. From the 4 that applied, 1 was amazing. And I've never seen an application as beautiful as that. Then the second one, it was an okay application. Someone that I did not like on his team, but made a big effort. And then 2 that I really didn't like the application. So I told him, hey, out of your 8, you really have 1.5 good executives. So watch out. And he said, Daniel, everything on the program was worth it just for this conversation. Now I know who on my team I could count on and what they could do. So he asked me to do a report on their character, and we're building a report on their learning character to be able to guide through the process and every year really understand who has the right learning character. And I always believe the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So it's really, really important that if they dabble through learning, that's how they're dabbling through the projects. So through the learning, we could also understand and see how you're going through the process.